Okay, some of these videos in which you're watching are talking about using apps in the classroom. Now, I have some experience using a pilot project and having apps at my disposal in the classroom, and I want to talk about really two different perspectives. The instructor using the iPad perspective and even the student using the iPad perspective. Let's talk about the actual instructor use of the iPad. Here are some questions here, and I'm not going to read all of these, but I would encourage you to pause and look at the results here. And what you'll see is a positive impact of faculty using iPads in the classroom. One thing to keep in mind is that iPad use in the classroom for faculty will vary greatly depending on the content, the course, and the program in which the students are in. So be mindful of that. But one of the results we can see is this positive effect in which faculty either agreed or strongly agreed for most of them. The one trend that we did see, if we look here, that was a little more even, is technical problems. One of the concerns when using iPad in the classroom is, does it work? Now, I can tell you after using the iPad in the classroom for a year now, for 2 semesters, that 99% of the time it works without a hitch. A couple big issues I guess I would bring out in which it didn't work or it didn't work properly. One, some of the older classrooms, particularly the older ITV classrooms, such as room F213, and this is being recorded in spring 2012, fall 2012, so it might be updated depending on when you watch this video. But F213 did not support the new iPad. There are now, I believe, 4 iPads out, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 3 and presumably the 4, which I have not used, have what's called a Retina display, which is a higher output for your screen. For some reason, some of the older classrooms like F213 do not support that high output and pretty much just gives you a blank screen. Every other class that I have been in so far has had no technical problems. Now, one thing to keep in mind is depending on the modality. If it's a general face-to-face course, most classrooms won't be a problem. Even in most ITV classrooms, for example, in the health building, I'm in room 3016 and I believe 2016 as well, and I've used both of those even with the recent upgrades with the HD TVs and whatnot. They've worked completely fine. So again, if you are using the iPad in the classroom, it is worth at least testing out before classes start. So that will help out with any of your glitches or whatnot. But I'm trying to think any other general glitches that I've come across. The only other, and it's not really a glitch, is when you are using your iPad, making sure that you disable the notifications. And I've talked about that in the general use video on disabling notifications. So between that and then one, or I'm sure there might be a couple other classrooms out, older ITV classrooms out there that might not support iPads. Most of them will. Again, when using the iPad, make sure you have a VGA adapter, which you can get on Amazon for roughly $30. That VGA adapter will connect to the VGA cord that is equipped with most classrooms in which you'd use a laptop. So not much difference between using a laptop or an iPad. You just need the particular VGA adapter for that. So we've talked about a little bit about faculty responses. Just to give you a little more data, why don't we talk about student use? Now, many of you may not be using or having students use iPads in the classroom, but I feel it's worth mentioning even briefly. And one of the things I noticed is that, generally speaking, the students really enjoyed using iPads in the classroom. However, some of my older students or less tech-savvy students did have a hard time. So when I asked them to provide general thoughts, it tended to be a hate or love type approach. Some really enjoyed them. A lot of them had a lot of fun. Group interaction was great, as well as putting them in the driver's seat, especially if it's a type of classroom like mine in the general studies where they tend to be less hands-on than some of those technical trade areas. This provided a breath of fresh air. Now, in terms of students using the iPads, some of them had a hard time turning them on, downloading apps, those sort of technical and basic uses of the iPad. But in terms of delivering content and having group interaction, discussion, activities, they worked great. But again, one of the trends I found was that there was sort of a love and hate. Many of them loved it, and not that anybody said that they hated it, but some preferred either using laptops or just doing away with them. So it really depends on the class. Like I said, Depending on the program and the course, it's going to vary widely, also depending on instructor use. But I did want to throw out a few of those, okay? Just wanted to talk about the instructor use as well as the faculty use of iPads. Okay,